This video is gonna get me some comment hate. I can already hear the Asimov Uber fans' fingers hitting the keyboard. You can't be serious! It's impossible to compare the genius that is Asimov to Cameron's Avatar. And I see you, Asimov fan. Believe me, I see you. But hear me out. Foundation's Edge and Avatar both used sentient worlds, but they used them very differently, and as such they played different but actually quite interesting thematic roles in their stories. And that's what I want to talk about today, building sentient worlds and the thematic roles they can play in your universe. Welcome to another episode of Just in Time Worlds with your host, Marie Mullaney. Let's start with Avatar. James Cameron's Pandora is a lush, vibrant world filled with bioluminescent plants and diverse fauna. It is visually stunning, but more than that, it's emotionally hard-hitting. Look, Avatar was a little too derivative for me personally, but I still admire what Cameron did with it. It taps into mythological archetypes, the brave mystical savage living in harmony with nature, and that draws viewers into a story that feels both familiar and deeply moving. The narrative evokes ancient themes of Mother Earth and the sacredness of nature, resonating with a broad audience on an emotional level. But unlike our planet, Earth, Pandora isn't just a backdrop, it's a character in its own right. The Na'vi, Pandora's indigenous people, have a profound spiritual connection to their world, primarily through Aiwa'a, the guiding force that represents the collective consciousness of all life on Pandora. And Aiwa'a plays a crucial thematic role in Avatar. As the Na'vi's deity, Aiwa'a embodies the interconnectedness of all living things on Pandora. This connection is not just spiritual, but physical, as seen through the neural link the Na'vi form with various creatures and plants. This bond allows the Na'vi to communicate with Aiwa'a and maintain balance within their ecosystem. Aiwa''s role extends beyond the spiritual, serving as a narrative device to highlight the environmental message of Avatar. The destruction of Pandora's ecosystem by human colonizers mirrors, sometimes with the subtlety of a sledgehammer, real-world environmental issues, emphasizing the need for respect and harmony with nature. Basically, the neural connection symbolizes people's connection to the natural elements of their world through Aiwa'a and through the spiritual and physical connection of sharing the planet. This aligns with Cameron's broader thematic goal of fostering an emotional connection to the environment, making a powerful statement about the importance of preservation and the consequences of ecological disruption. By focusing on the elements of interconnectedness, Avatar uses its living world to create an emotional bond with the audience, emphasizing the interconnectedness of all life and the importance of living in harmony with your environment. So that is how you can use a living world as a stand-in for spiritual power and use it to tell a story that embraces the spiritual and emotional themes around nature and life and the interconnectedness of an ecology. And it makes for a powerful device. For all that I have my issues with Avatar, it has to be counted as a successful movie, so clearly it is a device that resonates with viewers at some level. But now, let's turn our attention to a different way of using a sentient world. Let's talk about Gaia, Asimov, and an intellectual thought exercise. In Isaac Asimov's Foundation's Edge, we encounter Gaia, a planet where every living and non-living component shares a collective consciousness. Unlike Pandora's emotional and spiritual connections, Gaia presents a more intellectual and philosophical concept. On Gaia, individuality blends into a greater whole. This shared consciousness raises profound questions. What does it mean to be an individual? How does a society function when everyone can access each other's thoughts and experiences? Asimov uses Gaia to explore the boundaries between individualism and collectivism, posing it as a potential future for humanity. It's a thought exercise that challenges readers to consider the ethical and practical implications of such a society. While it might lack the immediate emotional impact of Pandora, I found Gaia's concept to be intellectually stimulating, and the story stuck with me for far longer than the movie of Avatar. Gaia's collective consciousness serves as a central theme in Foundation's Edge, reflecting Asimov's interest in the tension between individual freedom and collective good. This tension is a recurring motif in his work, often exploring how societal structures can balance these competing interests. The idea of Gaia pushes this exploration to its outer edges by presenting a society where the collective consciousness aims to create perfect harmony among its inhabitants and the environment. Gaia challenges the concept of individuality by creating a world where all thoughts, all experiences are shared. This setup prompts readers to question the value of individual thoughts and privacy. Asimov uses Gaia to suggest that such a system could lead to a more harmonious and efficient society, free from the conflicts and misunderstandings that arise from individualism. This principle is essentially, if we all understood each other perfectly, there would be no conflict. That being said, for someone who's used to having physical and mental privacy available to them or to me, the idea of joining a collective consciousness scratched me in very weird places. And it is why Foundation's Edge stayed with me so long, and why it sometimes still lives rent-free in my head. Would it be worth it to trade personal autonomy and mental privacy for a state where you are never lonely and there's never conflict? I don't know. It's a question I sway back and forth on when I think about it. If you'd been born in such a society, would you even miss the concept of privacy? I don't know. But the philosophical implications of Gaia extend to broader questions about the nature of consciousness and identity. In a society where every being is part of a larger consciousness, the definition of self becomes fluid. It raises the question, is personal identity an intrinsic part of being human, or can it be sacrificed for the greater good? Can you kill off people's individual choices to make them all conform to a single giant entity? When I thought about this again for this video, this was the point where I backed away from the concept of Gaia. I think I would rather be lonely and me than interconnected and not me. Maybe that makes me selfish, and maybe tomorrow I'll change my mind. But that's where I stand today. Where do you stand? Let me know in the comments. But where I stood is not where Golan Trevize stood when he made the decision of which way the universe should go. He's the protagonist of Foundation's Edge, and that choice of which way the galaxy should go was up to him. Now, Golan thought about all of these deep philosophical questions, and he explored them. And to Asimov's credit as a writer, there were no clear answers to these questions. But in the end, on intuition that it would bring the least harm to the most people, Golan chose the Gaia model. But there was a winkle, because Golan thinks that he chooses based on intuition, but in fact, Daniel R. Oliver manipulated Golan into making that choice so that an intergalactic invasion by aliens is turned away by the United Galaxy. And that brings up even more philosophical questions. When the AI is pulling the strings for the good of humanity, is it really for our good? And as always with Asimov, does the concept of free will even exist? Or is it just an illusion we cling to in the dark, a comforting lie we tell ourselves? So that's Gaia, and obviously very, and I mean very different from Avatar, with deep philosophical questions and a very interesting theme of how collective consciousness versus the individual could work. Have you read Foundation's Edge? Does it live rent-free in your head? Let me know in the comments. But this is a world-building channel, not a Marie Shoots the Breeze channel. So what is the lesson for world builders? How can we use sentient worlds in our stories? Is it just these two examples, or are there more? Let's plunge into 5 ways to use sentient worlds, including some examples. 1. Emotional and spiritual connection as illustrated by Pandora in Avatar. Create a world where the inhabitants have a deep emotional bond with their environment. This can be through a collective consciousness, a spiritual connection, or a symbiotic relationship. This model works well to explore themes of environmentalism and the sacredness of the environment. It can evoke a sense of wonder and reverence in your audience. In order to make this work well, you should develop rituals, myths, and cultural practices that highlights the inhabitants' connection to the world, making it an integral part of their identity and their daily lives. 2. Philosophical exploration of identity as illustrated by Gaia in Foundation's Edge. Here, you use a sentient world to delve into philosophical questions about individuality, collective consciousness, and the nature of self. And you do this by challenging your characters and through them your readers to consider the trade-offs between personal autonomy and collective harmony. Explore the implications of a society where privacy and individuality are sacrificed for the greater good. Now, to make this work, there needs to be dilemmas and conflicts that force the characters to confront these themes and leave the reader wondering, would I have chosen that? And that's our 2 deep examples from the earlier part in this video. But I do have another 3. So, onward to number 3. Using a sentient world as a narrative device for conflict and tension, as illustrated by Ego, the Living Planet, in the Marvel Comics. Here, you use the sentient world as an antagonist or a source of conflict. Its goals and actions can create tension and drive the plot. You can use the world's consciousness to reflect broader themes, such as the dangers of unchecked power, the consequences of isolation, or the ethical dilemmas of artificial intelligence. To make this work, you should develop the sentient world's personality, motivations, and ability. And really think about the fact that the sentient world has access to all of a world's resources, but it might have no peers. That limitless power and that lack of connection to peers of its kind can create a potent mixture to create a villain that is desperately lonely and yet cannot interact with anybody else because they just have too much resources available to them, too much power. You want to make this world an active participant in the story with its own agenda and its own influence over events. 4. A symbol of collective memory and history. I don't actually have an example for this one. Let me know in the comments if you've ever seen something like this. But I think it would be fascinating to use the world's consciousness as a repository of collective memory, preserving the history, culture, and knowledge of all the inhabitants that have ever lived on it. This would highlight the importance of memory, heritage, and the lessons of the past. It could also show how the world's consciousness helps or hinders the characters' understanding of their own history. You could implement this through some kind of spiritual or biological means, which I touched on briefly around the grass and the baobab trees in my Savannah video. Or you could go the sci-fi route and embed an AI into the world, which I think would be a super interesting approach to creating a sentient world as well. So the AI can control the world and its resources and draw power from the world. So is it still a machine at that point? Or has it become all of the living things? Have you fused man and machine? And check out my video on AI characters for more thoughts on AI. And then finally, 5. A sentient planet can serve as a metaphor for human experience. My best example here is Solaris by Stanislaw Lem. And I know it's technically not the planet that's sentient, it's the ocean, but it still illustrates the point, I think. In this model, the sentient world serves as a metaphor for complex human experiences, such as grief, love, or the subconscious mind. Chris Kelvin, the protagonist of Solaris, is confronted by a simulacra of his deceased lover, and he has to deal with his guilt over her death as part of the story. In this model, you could use the world's interactions with the characters to mirror their inner struggles, their fears and desires, and this can add psychological depth and resonance to your story, packing quite an emotional punch. To make this work, create scenarios where the sentient world reflects or amplifies the characters' emotions and thoughts, prompting them to confront their deepest issues. Sentient worlds offer a rich tapestry of possibilities for exploring themes and enhancing your narrative. Whether you want to evoke emotional connections, provoke philosophical thought, or create compelling conflicts, these worlds can be powerful tools in your world-building arsenal. I hope that this video has provided you with some food for thought. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. And if you want to support the channel financially, consider picking up one of my books. While I haven't implemented a living world, I do have an AI who controls the world in the series Skies of Destiny, or if epic fantasy is more your speed, check out Sangwheel Chronicles, which has no sentient worlds but many spirits and much assassin shenanigans. However, you can also show your support just by watching another video. Since you enjoyed this video, maybe check out my video on building a magic system where magic and technology combine. And I will see you soon for another video from Just in Time Worlds, where we build what we need, when we need it.